How's it going, everyone? I'm Dustin with Hard Cruise Racing. Welcome to the channel. This is an educational channel where we want to teach you how to be able to build your own things. So we're very descriptive on this channel. We try to really cover everything we can. Today I'm going to be talking about chemical stripping a motorcycle tank. Now, while I'm going to talk about doing this on a motorcycle tank, this can work on absolutely anything that is painted. Okay, that means chemical strip the whole car if you want. Do the engine bay. Do your badges. If you've painted your badges before and you hate it and it sucks, chemical strip your badges. Okay, I'm going to do this on a motorcycle tank. We are in the middle of our, what am I thinking of? Circle track racer. It's not called circle track racer. Flat tracker. We are converting a 1983 Kawasaki 550 into a flat tracker. If we get it done in time, we're going to be racing a race here in like 2 weeks. Depends. Bought some parts off Temu, like a seat and stuff. That gets here, we'll go race the race. If it doesn't get here, I'm not going to be upset, okay? But we are focused on budget-friendly racing. So, got to get the tank stripped. Now, the owner of the bike before me had sprayed the tank with like some rhino liner crap. I wasn't enthused. Kind of hard to get that kind of stuff off, like any kind of underbody or hardened bed liners or things like that off of painted surface. So, here we are. Got it wrapped up right now. Originally I was going to sand everything, and I actually started to make a video of me sanding this tank down to restore it, and it's just that liner is so hard to get off. So I decided to give stripping it a try. Now, I've worked on a lot of projects over the years. I tend to avoid chemical strippers. The reason why is because when you're block sanding something, the paint left behind during block sanding is filling your low spots, right? So if you chemical strip something, typically you have to go through and add a little bit of filler, add primers, block sand it back out. And I try to avoid a lot of that when I'm working on something by just block sanding from the get-go. Something I've always done. It's always worked for me. But with this tank and the coating that's on there and the fact that I just want to do a nice simple race paint job on it, I'm going to try stripping it. So, yeah, I am going to go through some of the things that I've tried with this stripper. It's just a cheap Walmart stripper, something you can go into Walmart right now and pick up, and where I'm at with it now. So, first off, this is made by Klean Strip, and it says it's good for wood products and for metal products and what else? Masonry? Yeah. So, on the back of it, it says to shake well, pour it into a metal container and apply a thick coat using a paintbrush and apply in only one direction. Leave on the surface. After 15 minutes, use a scraper to scrape the surface, and that says you can use a clean Brillo pad to finish off it. Now, here's where I'm at, and this is the little bit of research I've done and what makes sense in my brain. So with paint, you want to bust the top of the surface right off the back. Okay, when you bust the top of the surface, you allow penetration, especially with automotive paints, because again, you got to remember this is focused on not just painted products, but wood finishes and things like that. So with automotive paints specifically, if it was painted with an automotive paint, the top coat or the clear coat that's put onto an automotive paint, and usually when you do a single stage, it's in there initially, but it breaks down over time. Anybody who ever has tried to wet sand or wash a single stage knows that some of that paint comes out. But in a typical clear coat automotive paint, that top layer is a bit harder and it doesn't allow things to penetrate into your paint. That's why you don't have rust with a new paint job, because it doesn't allow anything to penetrate. So in those situations, you want to do what we call breaking the top layer. And what that is take a sandpaper and just go over everything. And when you see that dullness to it, you can see it on, well, okay, this is a classic. It's set, before I got it, it sat in the weed for a lot of years. You see how there's no gloss on here? You see how it's dull? That means that, well, that was a single stage, but that means that there's no more of that protective clear layer in there. So if you take a clear vehicle and you scrub it down, when you get to that dullness, that means you've broken the top layer, typically. When you break that top layer, you're going to allow this paint stripper to penetrate through and get deeper into the actual paint itself. And that's what we want to do here. This is really the key basis for every paint stripper, not even just this brand. Every paint stripper, when you're doing it on metal, break the top of the surface and then put the stripper on. Now, something that I found out the hard way just now, because I'm not a big fan of strippers, of paint strippers. Not a big fan of paint strippers. But one thing I just found out is if you put it on too thin, as that starts to break down, it essentially is going to dry out or saturate. So put it on real thick. It says that you have to put it in a metal container. I don't think so. Dump it right onto the piece and then spread it out. I didn't go grab a paintbrush. I could have. I have paintbrushes. I just didn't. Originally, I tried to take a little chunk of metal I had, which is what I'm going to use as my scraper. Just a little chunk of metal, has a flat side, and I just smeared it out that way. I put it on too thin. Put it on thick. Okay? Thick. Put it on there thick. But I used that initially. This last time I just put it on, because again, I put it on too thin. I had to go on thicker. I used my hands. They seem fine. Now, I know a lot of people have sensitivity to chemicals, so keep that in mind. But I put it on there with my hands. Well, originally I tried some blue gloves, melted the gloves. So I just used my hands. I put it on there, and then I went inside and I cleaned my hands with Dawn dish soap, made sure that I didn't have any feeling of chemicals on my hand. Scrubbed them down, and I'm fine. Let me be the test dummy for you, I guess. Put it on thick. The other thing that I looked up and read is essentially, when you see a lot of people wrap these in the automotive industry, when they're using strippers, they'll put a wrap on there. I was like, why? Because it doesn't say it on the label, right? That's to reduce evaporation. All chemicals evaporate over time. Even water will evaporate, right? If it's warm, your water will evaporate. So that's going to evaporate relatively rapidly. Key rule of thumb is if you open something and that smell hits you in the face, then it has a tendency to gas off or evaporate rapidly. So everyone says to wrap it, and that's supposed to help seal that and push those chemicals a little bit deeper. I don't know. I haven't unwrapped it yet to find out. So we will find that out together. So, key points. Break the surface, put it on thick, wrap it with plastic. That's where we're at right now, okay? Now, well, let's just go see if it's worked. Well, okay, let's go see if it's worked. It's been about 20 minutes, and it says 15 to 20 minutes. Some places online say leave it longer. Some places say don't leave it as long. My issue is that I'm dealing with that bed liner coat, which is thicker than normal paint. Sure, if I put this on a regular painted surface, it would strip it right off. But I, of course, have to be dealing with something stupid. So let's go check the stupid. Alright, so looking at this surface, up here is where I've already scraped it off. This is where I was trying to sand stuff down. So where I tried the paint thinner was all up here. So really we're looking at the sides right now, okay? You can see that it's obviously breaking the paint down. And if I grab a chunk of metal I got laying over here, again, this is just a little chunk of metal that I had, and I press it on there, it's going to scrape right off. Nope, only there though. I don't know if I didn't put it as thick up there or what. You can see it's starting to break down. Now again, this is with that bed liner crap. I'm all for, you know, using bed liner to hide like major imperfections, like small dents and stuff. It'll hide that stuff. It's so thick. Oh, man, is it hard to get that off. So you can see that it's just coming off. So I'm going to leave this on a little longer. Don't be afraid to come to it, scrape a bunch off, add another layer, cover it back up, scrape a bunch off. Because remember, every time we scrape something like that off, we're opening that edge for the thinner down to penetrate back into it. So I'm going to leave it a little longer, and then I'm going to scrape it some more. When you get done scraping it, what I'm going to do is I have a pan right here next to me. I use this like a mini parts cleaner. What that has in there is some degreaser. Where's my finger? Degreaser from Sam's Club. Heavy, real thick in there that I use to degrease racing parts. I dunk it in there, let it sit, and then scrub them down with a Brillo pad. I'm going to use that on this. I don't know if that's the correct thing. Okay, some people say you got to use mineral spirits. Some people say you got to use whatever. I'm going to scrub it down, and then I'm going to hit it with the hose, and I'm going to rinse the part down, and then I'm going to let it air off for at least a day before I even consider paint. And really that's just, again, so we allow that full evaporation. If you put paint over top of a chemical that needs to evaporate, that's how you get a lot of like wrinkling in your paint or air bubbles and all this other things. Okay, so you gotta let it air out completely, and that's how I'm gonna do it. This also gives me a good chance to throw some water in this tank with some marbles or nuts and bolts or whatever I got, you know, some handful of rocks. whatever, just to clean that tank out and break down anything that's in there. We know there's rust in the tank from the tear down, so we need to consider that in the process. So that's the basics of using a chemical stripper on any painted product. Now again, that stripper says it's good for wood, that stripper says it's good for masonry or stone, and then metal. So if it's good for wood, it probably means it's not as potent, so you're going to have to really use it to get metal to strip, okay? That's where we're at. I hope this helps anybody else that's in the process. Again, because I've worked on cars for 10 years, and I've built everything from custom bikes to cars. I just don't use chemicals. I kind of avoid them unless I'm doing like a mineral spirits wipe down before paint. Even then, I still kind of prefer to go with like a Dawn dish soap wash, which strips everything off, and then letting it dry. It's just the way I am. I like to avoid chemicals as much as possible, probably because I live on a homestead and everything I think I touch is going to go into the soil, go into the ground, but I don't know. Maybe I'm losing it. Thanks for watching the video. I hope it helped. If you want more informative content, be sure to follow our page. I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you guys watching. Get out there, build cool things. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But most importantly, have a good day. Have a good